Hi everyone, this is Natalie with Champion of Coins Tarot. I hope that you all are doing very well today. I am here to share all of the decks that I worked with in the month of May. And May was a very strange and beautiful month. There were a lot of very high highs and very low lows. And I am very grateful that it is over. But because there was so much going on personally, professionally, um, kind of health wise for me, my practice this month looks very different than what I anticipated it to. There are decks on this list that I did not originally intend to work with during this season at all. And there are other ones that I had intended to work with that I ended up not touching. And I am going to be finding a way to integrate those titles into my practice going forward. So I think the best way to structure this video is actually to go theme by theme and to kind of share clusters of decks that have been part of important spiritual practices for me or that have been part of various studies. And then we'll close with some of the decks that are newer to my collection and a very, very special gift. So we're going to go ahead and start with the ancestral practice. I've been talking about ancestor work a lot recently. That has become very important and very vital to what I do. And the three main oracle decks that I use in that practice are the Southern Gothic Oracle, the Spiral Oracle, and then the Southern Botanic Oracle. And really working with these three decks together has opened a lot of doors for me. I really enjoy using the Spiral Oracle as the central focus or the central theme for the reading. And then the Southern Gothic, for me, very much feels in alignment with the particular culture and history of part of my family. And then the Southern Botanic is really beautiful for emotional integration and processing while doing this kind of communication and work together. And so I've very much enjoyed kind of having like a central anchor from each of these decks, in working together. And that's been very, very lovely. And I will say, because I have been maybe a little bit more fragile, or maybe just, more kind of drained of energy this month, really I have been focusing less on getting to know ancestors that are relatively new to me, and instead really focusing on building up connections with those ancestors who I do know, or perhaps focusing more on collective readings from particular groups of ancestors instead of um, doing this like very intense work of like going through and diving through their entire life story. So in that sense, like the oracles have been much more accessible for me in that way. And I think that they really resonate together very, very beautifully. And then, of course, the tarot deck that I use for my ancestral work is the one and only Etruscan Tarot. I'm going to go ahead and clear space for that here. And I do have a full review video on the channel about the Etruscan Tarot now, which some of you had requested, and I'm very, very excited to see how much enthusiasm other folks have for this deck. Whoops. Don't want to skip Temperance there. That's a very, very important card, of course. Yeah, I'm very excited to see that so many other people resonate with this deck. I also, in that video, included the spreads that come in the guidebook and how I use them for ancestral communication and for channeling messages from either one particular ancestor or from a group of ancestors. So I will leave that linked down below as well. Oh my goodness. We're just skipping all of the majors. But sometimes, sometimes it's like that. So that's been the ancestral practice. And then another practice that I have been engaged in, of course, is the Deccan Walk, which is being led by Marlena Teresa. And I haven't really talked about the Deccan Walk outside of these kind of monthly wrap up videos because it's getting really personal. Like, I very deeply felt the energy of the recent decans in Taurus and in Gemini very, very strongly. And that kind of goes into energetic territory that I don't particularly want to dwell in, um, in a public space. But I will share that the decks that I've been using for this practice have been very, very transformative. The spreads that Marlena has provided to us are absolutely amazing and thought provoking. So I've been using the Thoth as the anchor to represent the major arcana cards that represent the planetary energies for the decan. And then for Taurus, I rounded out those decans with the Hardy Tarot, which is just one of my favorite Thoth-based clones of all time. And then for Gemini, I've been working with the Asherah Tarot. And it really is amazing how, two decks that utilize the same system can differ so dramatically in terms of both the artwork, but also the energetic connection that they bring to the table. So for me, Hardy Tarot is one that is very grounded. It's very loving. It's great for looking at relationships. And it has a very soft voice. It's a deck that really benefits from taking some time to sit in meditation, contemplation, and journaling. And then the Asherah Tarot is so airy and so not necessarily volatile, but definitely has a lot to say, and it wants to say it all at once. It kind of speaks in these bursts of thought and like these bursts of messages. And it's very fun, it's very playful, but it also has the capacity to go into very long-winded philosophical conversations. And so I have actually quite enjoyed using this for Gemini specifically, when examining these themes of duality, when examining maybe some of the thought processes that I apply to myself and to my own behavior, versus how I might treat others who are in a similar situation. It's just very talkative and it wants to dive in and to cover every single angle of that. Whereas when working with the Hardy and Taurus, it was much more slow and much more of a process to kind of tease out the message. And that's not to say that one deck is better than the other, because I think both of them are absolutely some of my all-time favorites when it comes to delving into the Thoth system. It's just very, very fascinating to me how radically different they are from one another and how in alignment they are with the overall zodiac sign that we are working with. So that's been great. Love the Deccan decks. I'm looking forward to finally, getting into Cancer season and getting to work with some of the more watery Thoth energy that I have in my collection. So that will be really wonderful. And then final practice for this month, and one that I actually ended a few weeks ago, was my yearly project to count the Omer using tarot and oracle cards. So for those of you who might not be familiar, the Omer is the 49-day period in between Passover and Shavuot on the Jewish calendar, where each day is represented by the interplay of energy between the lower sphirot on the Kabbalistic tree of life. And this is the Omer Oracle, which is by Nomi Lam and Tayama Sher. They are two ordained Kohanet priestesses. And I have really been enjoying using this deck both to draw the specific card for the day, but also using this and experimenting with this as a more general oracle deck. I think that the messages in the guidebook, while very brief, are very true and resonant for my experience. It kind of brings all of the events of the day, no matter how chaotic they might be, back to a humble place of gratitude. And that's been very, very important for me. This deck also does come with additional cards for the higher Sphirot, which are not included in the Omer count. So that way you can actually draw out the Tree of Life using the cards for each week. And that's been very fun to build. So yes, I have very much been enjoying my time working with this deck in particular. I might do a full review at some point. I think I'm probably going to save this and make it more timely for when we count the Omer next year, because I think it would be nice to be able to do like a Kabbalistic Tarot series or like a Kabbalistic Oracle series, some kind of shared resource for other Jewish readers or for people who are just interested in approaching working with the cards from that kind of lens. So yes. Now, on to the other big practice. I have really just gone off the deep end into shadow work and personal healing. And a lot of that was spurred on by work that I've been doing with the Babylonian Tarot. So the Babylonian Tarot very much is like the map that I have been following in terms of where I'm going in my spiritual practice, what kind of themes are coming up, like what is the next event that is on the horizon, what is the next lesson or place that I need to embrace upon this path that I am on right now. And, you know, those roads have been leading to doing shadow work, really understanding and being able to integrate all of these different kinds of lessons that have come up this month. And I'm making it sound a lot more dramatic than it actually is, because really I am in such a blessed place right now in terms of my career, in terms of my relationships, also in terms of spiritual practice and what I've been doing. But it's almost like in those moments of calm, in those moments where you feel safe, is when you finally have the time to pause and to stop and to reflect on everything that's happened that took you to this point. And you can turn around and you can face those things in the past from a more wise and more compassionate and forgiving place. So that's what I really mean when I talk about this being a very big shadow work month. It's not because, you know, anything horrible has happened or anything like that. It's just it's just very much time to do that. And so some of the decks that I consciously set out to work with, even before I knew that that was going to be the big theme for May, were the Demon Tarot and the Somnia Tarot. So let's talk about the Demon Tarot first, because this is a very solitary deck. This is one that I will do a one card draw with it. I also have a full review on the channel now. I have loved this deck and worked with it for several years now. It is a really indispensable companion for me. This is a very playful deck. This is a very fiery deck, but it's also a deck that is very, very truthful. You know, it's not going to play any games. It might tease me, but it is always going to tell me the truth. And so I know that when working with the Demon Tarot, like I know when I'm blowing something out of proportion, basically, or when a situation is really that serious. And that is the kind of clarity and also the kind of affirmation and support that this deck has been providing to me over the course of the month and over the course of doing these daily draws with it. So that's been very great. And then I've also been working with the Somnia Tarot, which is absolutely beautiful. Like, first of all, what an incredible artistic achievement. These are all, real photographs that the artist took and staged, and they're absolutely stunning. I don't think that there might be like a photoshopped pentacle here and there, but really all of these are practical sets and practical stunts, which is incredible. And just the Gothic atmosphere, the hoods, the covered faces, the sea, like all of this just lends to such a really beautiful Gothic feeling. I do think that this is a more earthy deck and a much more practical deck. So this has been very good for looking at shadows that come up specifically in relation to work, and also in regards to kind of self-esteem, I would say. So that has been very, very beautiful. And then I have actually paired this with the Isis Oracle, which is, one of my favorite oracle decks of all time. And this has been very beautiful for being able to see patterns in my work ethic and in my self-talk that really stem from my childhood and stem from those past experiences that no longer need to have any kind of bearing or any kind of influence on what I do now and how I talk to myself now. And so even though these are vastly different art styles, and one is much more, I mean, they're both dreamy, but I think the Somnia Tarot perhaps has more of a gravitas to it, whereas the Isis Oracle's artwork has like this very dynamic, flowing, childlike energy to it. They do actually complement one another very, very well, and I have enjoyed using them together. And then the other shadow work decks that have been very, very important to me at this point in time are the XIII Tarot and the Vampyres Oracle. Now, XIII Tarot I have had for years, and I have also put it in and out of purgatory, and I think even listed it and tried to sell it at one point, and nobody bought it. And I've been waiting for the right time to understand why this deck is here and why it has value and importance to me. And that time is now. And then the Vampyres Oracle, this is a deck that was also one of my very first Oracle decks, like with the Demon Tarot. And I have a deep love and a deep affinity for it. And this also, in a sense, is confronting while still being comforting. Like, it's very beautiful and very loving, but it is kind of that tough love. And then XIII Tarot is showing me what the overall spiritual lesson that I'm learning now is, and what the overall spiritual lesson that past versions of myself was learning in that particular moment. And it's been really, really amazing. XIII Tarot is a pip deck, and so that does not deter me at all. In fact, it makes for very clear and very direct readings. And it makes the themes of the major arcana and of the archetypal court cards that much more important, and, really draws a lot of attention and emphasis to them as being the anchor around which all of like the other cards in the spread kind of turn. So that's been really, really great. And I'm not going to say too much more about that, because whereas the Somnia Tarot and the Iris Oracle and the Demon Tarot are kind of going back into their boxes, and I'm going to move on to different energy, these two are staying out for June. We are not done together yet. And I also think that this has the potential to become a year-long dedicated practice like the Deck and Walk or like my ancestral work will be. All right. So now we are out of the shadow. Let's go ahead and move into the light together, shall we? So other decks that I've been using, Botanical Inspirations. This is the one that I have kept on my desk at work. Very, very simple. You have these beautiful vintage drawings of different plants, and then you have keywords and an inspirational quote. And this has just been so lovely, so direct, so uplifting. It's really been cheering me on because I have needed it. I've been working a lot of lawn hours over the last couple of weeks, and this just keeps me going and makes sure that I am bringing my best self to my work, to my clients, to my team members, despite all of the curveballs that we have been facing recently. Other decks, we have the Bosch Tarot by Lo Scarabeo. I'm not sure when this was originally published, but this was definitely when they were on their whole kick of doing artistic reproduction decks. Bosch Tarot, I'm still trying to figure out. I think I've only had this deck for 3 years. I think I got this in 2020. And it's one where I absolutely love the artwork. I think Hieronymus Bosch, of course, is absolutely amazing, so far ahead of his time, so inspirational. But I'm still trying to figure out what this deck is really good to be used for. It doesn't seem to be that keen on doing everyday readings, but it also isn't hitting the same spiritual notes that XIII Tarot or the Babylonian Tarot are really hitting. So I don't know, I'm going to go ahead and put it back, but it's one that I'm certainly interested in trying to continue to get to know. And then I've also been working with the China Tarot by Lo Scarabeo. I edged this in a really nice Prismacolor marker that matches the greens on the front of the cards. Yeah, I have this backwards here, yeah. So this is another pip deck, but it's very beautiful. And I think this is still in order from when I edged it, so I apologize. Let's go ahead and get some other ones going. But this is a very, fiery, creative, inspirational deck. It's good for spirit communication. I didn't really use it for that. I was more so using this as positive, creative inspiration over the past month. But it is one that I love a lot. And even when we're not doing very deep or intensive work together, it's one that I enjoy just kind of periodically having around and drawing from because it is such a wellspring, again, of creative inspiration for me. I also have a full review of this on the channel as well that I can leave linked below for anyone who is interested. And now on to the new decks. So I did pick up a few titles. One of them, and I hope that I am pronouncing his name correctly, but this is the Iassen Ghiuselev Major Arcana cards by Lo Scarabeo. So I actually had this artist's tarot of the third millennium, which is what this artwork is originally from. And I loved the majors in that deck so much. The minors, however, were borderline unreadable, and that was kind of by design. It was a very intentional experimental project, kind of blending the Marseille style of pips with one continuous image. And it was a lot. It was a lot to try to read with. But these really beautiful graphite Major Arcana drawings have stuck with me all throughout these years. And so when I saw that Lo Scarabeo had come out with this Majors Only version, I scooped them up. It's on the newer cardstock, which I don't like, but it's matte instead of glossy. So I don't know, it has kind of like this interesting, maybe you can hear it, I don't know, has this very interesting texture to it. But I'm excited to use this anytime I need to focus on a major arcana card in a reading, maybe for spell work, maybe for the deck and walk, maybe for just pure meditation. But I do love these images so much. And I'm very, very excited to have them back in my home because they really do take me to such a wonderful spiritual place when I work with them. And then last but certainly not least, I am so excited and truly just so humbled to be able to share with you a very wonderful gift that a kind viewer sent to me. So in my 21 Tarot questions video, I was talking about the deck that got away. And for me, that's the Russian Tarot of St. Petersburg. I loved that deck. I traveled extensively with that deck. And I ended up giving it away to a friend when I was moving out here to Oklahoma. And I, have regretted it, but also there are just so many memories associated with that deck that I wasn't sure if there would be another copy that would be as special to me as that one was. And this very lovely person reached out and offered to send me an original 1997 copy of the deck with the full 300-page guidebook and box set from US Games. I am really just floored. This is one of just the most kind and thoughtful gifts that I've gotten in a while. It has meant so much just to have these images back in my life because I really did walk with them for so long and at such a formative time in my life. Not only as a tarot reader, but also just as a person. This deck really helped to usher me into the beautiful place that I am right now. And it has been so wonderful to be able to read through this accompanying book, to be able to find out more information about the artist, about the creation of this beautiful deck, about Russian history and culture and religion, and just all of the beautiful symbolism that makes this deck what it is. Again, I have not had the time to read with it yet. I'm really just studying and reading up as much as I can about it. But I am so, so happy. Truly, this deck feels so wise and loving and luminous to me. It definitely feels like it did back then. And so I have already said thank you countless times, but thank you so, so much. You know who you are. I am just so happy to be able to learn about this deck and to play with it. And I definitely do want to do a full review and walkthrough, especially given the context that this book provides, because the book has been out of print for a long time. And so I'm hoping that if there's anybody else out there who wants to learn more information, that I can help to use this to create a resource for other people, because there really isn't anything else like the Russian Tarot of St. Petersburg, in my humble opinion. And this definitely has just come back at a time when, again, I am really so grateful and appreciative. So thank you. Those are all of the decks that I had to share with you today. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really enjoy just having this platform, being able to connect with all of you and to learn more about your own tarot practices. Please let me know if you have any of these decks, if you've had similar or different experiences with them to me. I really, really enjoy seeing how this artwork and this energy shows up for everyone. And if you would like me to do a review video or to expand upon any of the thoughts that I have shared, let me know because I would be happy to do that as well. As always, I am sending you much love and much light as you walk along your own path. Bye.